Jai Lakshmi Vishnu Priya Vishwam Bhakti Jai Isha Jai Lakshmi Vishnu Priya Vishwam Bhakti Jai Lakshmi Vishnu Priya Vishwam Bhakti Isha Jai Lakshmi Vishnu Priya Vishwam Bhakti Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jai Sachinanda, Gaura Hari, Jai Sachinanda, Jai Sachinanda, Gaura Hari, Jai Sachinanda, Gaura Hari, Jai Sachinanda, Jai Sachinanda, Gaura Hari, Jai Sachinanda, Gaura Hari. Krishna, thank you.
Jai.
An executive desk tonight.
You need some water?
Oh, I could probably use some.
Is it downstairs?
Wherever it is. Samtani Shakya Pranishtam. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swaparantikam Pancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Mukhaṁ karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim Yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. It's much fuller than I remember it. So tonight we're going to start a section in the Uddhava Gita which you may recognize. You may not recognize where we're going tonight, but you will next time. So Krishna has described a little bit about devotional service to Uddhava, and Uddhava has a question. Śrī Uddhava uvacha sadhustavottama shloka matakidrig vida prabho bhaktistvai upayujyeta kidrishi sadbirda adrita etan me purushadhyaksha lokadhyaksha jagat prabho pranayanu pranatayanu raktaya prapannaya chakatyatam. Any familiar words in there?
Uttama shloka.
You got Uttama shloka in here? Yeah. Sadhus tavottama shloka. Uttama shloka. So that's, who's that?
He's your godbrother?
Yes, that's Uttama Shloka Das. Uttama Shloka is Krishna. He's glorified by the best prayers. Any other words that are familiar in here? Any that start with a P and rhyme with prapanna? Prapanna, not a familiar word. Should be a familiar concept. Śrī Uddhava said, O Uttama Shloka, O Lord who is glorified by select prayers, what kind of person do you accept as a genuinely saintly person? What kind of devotional service is approved by you as worthy of being offered to your Lordship? O Lord of Vaikun, Master of the universe, I'm fully surrendered to you. Should be a very familiar word. I'm fully surrendered to you, and I have no shelter other than your lotus feet. Kindly explain this to me. So, and then he says, Tvam Brahma Paramam Vyoma Purusha Prakrite Paraha Avatirnosi Bhagavan Svechopakta Pratagvapuhu. My dear Lord, although you are transcendental to material nature and like the sky, you're never entangled in any way. You assume different forms of incarnation in this world according to the desire of your devotees. So in his commentary on these three verses, Vishwanath Chakravarti makes a couple of points that I found a little interesting. In verse 27, Vishwanath says, in this verse, Uddhava says that he is anuraktaya. He's attached to Lord Krishna with love. Well, disconcerting. Having my audience behind me. Kind of like Pete Seeger. When Pete Seeger gave a concert, they overbooked the auditoriums because there was just no way. You could only give a certain number of concerts. So they would put people up on the stage behind him. But I'm not Pete Seeger, and we only have like 5 people in the audience. He's attached to Lord Krishna with love. So this is an important thing. This is the kind of what I want to look at tonight is the process of inquiry. But I want to make these couple of points first. Uddhava he's anuruktaya. He's completely immersed in love for Krishna. And now, some devotees might worship the demigods for one reason or another, but Uddhava, he never worshipped anyone other than Krishna. And another point is that, well, in the third verse, in verse 28, Uddhava says, you assume different forms of incarnation in this world according to the desires of your devotees. So Krishna, as we see in so many places, is obliged to his devotees. He's supremely independent, Swatantra, Yadrucha. At the same time, he's completely controlled by the love of his devotees. Just as we see in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is driving Arjuna's chariot. That's a subservient position. He's taken a position of service to Arjuna because of Arjuna's love. So because of Uddhava's love, the Lord, now he's taking the form of an instructor. So Vishwanath says, the Lord's not different from his devotees because he preaches devotional service through his devotees. We'll see when we look at some other verses, connected verses. Remember connections? We're all about connections. We'll see something about the connection with the Guru and the Lord and the devotee's heart. So, and he says that Narada Muni says, having been awarded a transcendental body to befitting an associate of the personality of Godhead, I quit the body made of 5 material elements. So the devotees don't have material bodies. They have spiritualized bodies called Sataka Deha. So, Uddhava is inquiring from Krishna, and we see his attitude. He says, I am surrendered to you. And so who can think of a verse in Bhagavad Gita that describes how we should inquire about after spiritual knowledge?
It's the one with Pratipena.
Yeah.
Who?
Pranipatena.
Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. So Krishna says, Krishna is describing different kinds of sacrifice here in the 4th chapter. And just before this verse, he says, of the various sacrifices, that of wisdom is far superior to the sacrifice of material possessions. For whatever may be accomplished by action is realized in wisdom. And then he says, Tat vidhi pranipatina. Tat. Remember that one? That. Right? It's that. So there's an antecedent. What wisdom? Well, this wisdom that's a sacrifice superior to all others, right? How do you get that wisdom? Pranipatena, pariprashnena, and sevaya. Pranipat means falling at a person's, this is from the Monier-Williams Sanskrit English Dictionary, falling at a person's feet, prostration, humble submission, salutation, reverence, obeisance. So, pranipat, submission. And pariprashna. Pariprashna means relevant inquiry, asking um, intelligent questions, questions relevant to, well, in this case, we're talking about wisdom, to attaining actual wisdom, which means spiritual knowledge. And what's the third thing?
Seva.
Sevaya. Sevaya means service. What kind of service?
Menial.
Menial service. Whatever the guru wants. It may mean running, going out and starting a temple and making disciples. It may mean, just as we see in Mundaka Upanishad, that verse that Tadvigyanartam Sagurumeva Bhikachet Samitpani Shoktiya Brahmanishtam. So you get that knowledge. How do you get that knowledge? How do you get that wisdom? Vijnana. Sagurum eva bhikachet. You certainly have to surrender to a guru. How? Samitpani, carrying firewood and water. It's a real kind of a classic guru-disciple thing, especially in Asian cultures. But a long time ago, I read a book. I was taking a creative writing class when I was going to college on Maui. About 30 years ago, a long time ago. And we read a book. It was a novel written by an American writer called The Ronin. Ronin was like a Japanese samurai version of a knight errant. So he was a warrior without a master. So at one point, it was a long time ago that I read this book. The student approaches the master, and he's carrying firewood. Of course, he also has to always be on guard because the master's got his wooden training sword, and he could be whacked at any time. So he has to be ready for that. And eventually, he becomes more and more alert, so that when he hears that, not they always have that in the Asian martial arts movies. You've got or even, I guess even nowadays, you got all this exaggerated sound of the sword being drawn from its scabbard or something like that. So you would hear that. He would feel the air moving, and he'd be ready, drop the wood and wheel around, block the blow. And who else do we know carried firewood?
Krishna.
Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He had a guru, and when his guru's wife asked him and his friend Sudama to go get some firewood, they got caught in a storm and were stuck out in the forest overnight, and still they didn't flag in their duty. Guru Patni asked, we do. Simple as that. Whatever service needs to be done, we do it. Chanakya Pandit himself said, Chanakya Pandit also says in his Niti Shastra, it's kind of common sense, was in Chanakya Pandit's known especially for two volumes. One is his Niti Shastra and one is Artha Shastra. Artha Shastra is kind of the Indian version of Machiavelli's The Prince. It's the art of politics. It has all kinds of nasty things like, the thing I remember that sticks out in my mind most is the Vishakanya, young, beautiful, poisoned girl. Take a very beautiful young girl from the court, and you feed her just a little tiny bit of poison every day for over a period of time. And she becomes toxic, but unaffected by it because it's introduced gradually. And then you present her as a gift to your enemy. And then as soon as the enemy kisses her, dead. Vishakanya. So, but then also his Niti Shastra, this is something that Srila Prabhupada quoted quite often. And in one verse in the Niti Shastra, Chanakya Pandit says, just as we get water from a well by digging, so we get knowledge from the Guru by service. So this is an important thing. It's a reciprocal thing. If we approach the Guru submissively, that makes us receptive, and we do it with a service attitude, that makes us receptive to the knowledge the Guru is going to give, but it also makes the Guru susceptible, makes him affectionate. It creates an affectionate bond between the student and the teacher. That's why kids used to bring an apple to the teacher. Call them apple polishers. There are other names for them too, if they're less polite. In his commentary on this verse, Tad Vidhi Pranipatina, Tripurari Maharaj says about the Guru, he says, the practitioner's own heart. This is a sentence that we should be familiar with. It's chapter 4, verse 34. The practitioner's own heart, free from the clutter of material desire, appears before him in the form of Shri Guru. Our spiritual desires present themselves to us in the form of Shri Guru. Because the Guru is nothing other than an agent, nothing more and nothing less than an agent of Krishna's Kripa Shakti, as we learn from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Madhurya Kadamini, right? But she's completely independent, Krishna's Kripa Shakti, Srimati Radharani, Bhakti Devi, she's completely independent. Every bit as independent as Krishna. But she follows the lead of the Madhyama Bhaktas who preach, because Krishna has invested them with the power of his Kripa Shakti. He's made them agents of Radharani, of his Kripa, and she just follows him. And if a devotee is kindly disposed towards someone, Bhakti Devi says, oh, okay, game over, right? It's just a matter, just a matter of time. So we submit ourselves to the Guru out of respect for the knowledge that the Guru presents. And that naturally makes the Guru affectionately disposed. It's just a natural kind of reciprocation thing. Just like, well, even Krishna, Krishna would come to his father with Nanda Maharaj's shoes on his head. And Nanda Maharaj's heart would melt. And he would take the shoes and he would smell his boy's head, as fathers and grandfathers are wont to do. So, and then proper questions. And we'll see, and we'll get another sense of what might be proper questions as we discuss a little further. So what I was thinking was we would take a look at inquiry by thinking of and taking a quick look at some examples of inquiry. So who are some of our exemplars?
Arjuna.
Well, Arjuna is one. How did you know I was thinking that? So in the second chapter, Arjuna shows us the proper attitude for submitting inquiry. He says, Karpanya dosho pahata svabhavaha prachami twang dharma samutacheta yatreya syam nishtitam bruhitam me sishyastehum sadhimam twang prapannam. Does that sound familiar? Prapannam. What is that one?
Surrender.
Surrender. Prapanna jivanamritam. Srila Sridhar Maharaj's amazing book about Sharanga Sharanagati, the 6 limbs of surrender, the 6 characteristics of surrender. Prapanna jivanamritam. Surrender, the life, life nectar of the jiva. Prapanna. So he says, I'm confused about my duty due to miserly weakness. How does he know he's immersed in miserly weakness?
Because he's miserable.
Well, because he's miserable, But it's been very clearly pointed out to him by Krishna, right? At the end of the first chapter, he has all these lofty arguments, all these big religious arguments, women will be ruined, society will go to hell, this and that, dharma this, dharma that. And Krishna says, yeah, it sounds really nice, but it's utter nonsense. While speaking learned words, you're just a fool. This is just foolishness. So Krishna has told him, this is miser. Give up this petty weakness of heart, he says, right? So Arjuna's admitting this. Okay, yes, I am miserable. I am afflicted by weakness of the heart, miserly weakness. Miserly, why narrow? Miserly, karpanya dosha pahata. Karpanya dosha, the fault of miserliness. What's miserliness?
Holding on to the things.
Yeah, it's all about me. Just holding on to things. Just like the Aesop fable, right? That boy he's given a jar, the hungry boy's given a jar full of nuts, and he reaches into the jar and he grabs all the nuts that he can get into his in his grasp. And he tries to pull them out, but the neck of the jar is too narrow. There's no way in the world he's going to enjoy all those nuts if he tries to get them all at once. So he's grasping. This is like the Buddhists talk about this grasping. This is the source of all our suffering. Mamaka Pandavascha, right? Us and them. My sons and the sons of Pandu. What are my sons and the sons of Pandu going to do? Looks like they want to fight. So, and what did they do? My sons, us and them. So this miserly, and so Arjuna was thinking the same way. Arjuna was thinking, oh, my friends, my cousins, my great uncle, grandfather, Pitamaha, Bhishma, right? My teacher, my allies, all these are my, because he's asked Krishna, okay, here we are, please, before we start the battle, draw the chariot up and let me see who it is I have to fight. And Krishna says, here they are. Here are all your attachments you have to slay. This is real jihad. Right? This is because that's what the Muslims talk about. When they talk about jihad, they're talking about this kind of inner struggle to live a righteous life. So Krishna is saying, okay, here they are. Here's all your attachments. And you have to take them on. You have to kill Grandfather Bhishma. You have to kill these cousins and that friend of yours. And, the first chapter, they're all named, all these great warriors. And, if you know the story, there's so many battles that are just so heartbreaking. He has to kill Bhishma, his great uncle. It's like in Hawaii. In Hawaii, older folks are all uncle and auntie. So Pitamaha, he's a great uncle, but he's like grandfather. It's kind of they call him Pitamaha, great dear grandfather. So has to kill his grandfather. Has to kill his teacher, Dronacharya. Has to kill his cousins. Has to kill all these friends of his, And then and then there are these horrible battles where people on his side will be killed. Abhimanyu. If you can read the story of Abhimanyu's ambush without crying, well, then you should read it again. Because what is it? His chariot gets stuck in the mud. He gets down to pull it out, and he's surrounded by this whole wall of Maharathis. And he doesn't shrink. He just turns around. He says, "Bring it," and they cut him down. And by that time, you're on the floor bawling. At least I am. Anyway. So this is this is Arjuna's attitude. Okay, so I'm confused about my duty. I don't know what to do because my heart is weak. I have to I have to kill all my attachments? How do you do that? So he says, I'm your disciple and the soul surrendered to you. Please instruct me. So that's Arjuna's attitude. So what other exemplars do we have?
Shankar Rishi.
Shaunaka Rishi. Well, we have the sages of Nainisharanya approaching Shaunaka Rishi. Well, we have, yeah.
No, they're approaching Sutta Goswami. Shankar Rishi was the head of the sages.
Yeah, Shaunaka Rishi, yeah. So he's submitting his inquiry to Sutta Goswami. And so, as luck would have it, the very first chapter of the Bhagavatam is called Questions by the Sages. And so here's how the sages, led by Shaunaka Rishi, approached Sutta Goswami. Respected Sutta Goswami, you're completely free from all vice. You're well versed in all the scriptures, famous for religious life, and in the Puranas and the histories as well. For you have gone through them under proper guidance and also explained them. Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam, right? You're fixed in transcendental knowledge and learned in scriptures. Being the eldest learned Vedantist of Sutta Goswami, you are acquainted with the knowledge of Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of Godhead. You also know other sages who are fully versed in all kinds of metaphysical and metaphysical knowledge, and because you're submissive, your spiritual masters have endowed you with all favors bestowed on a gentle disciple. Therefore, you can tell us all that you have scientifically learned from them. Please, therefore, being blessed with many years, explain to us in an easily understandable way what you've ascertained to be absolute and ultimate good for the people in general. Then we have Parikshit, because he's going to tell about Maharaj Parikshit approaching Shukadeva Goswami, right? Mm-hmm. And what's Maharaj Parikshit's attitude? Maharaj Parikshit's given everything up. Talk about slaying your attachments. Mm-hmm. As soon as he gets cursed by that punk Brahmin boy. And remember, that's how Kali Yuga started. Kali Yuga started with a Brahmin, with an unqualified Brahmin. He was the son of a Brahmin, right? Brahma Bandhu, Shringi. And so he cursed Maharaj Parikshit to be bitten in 7 days by a snake bird or whatever wonderful thing it is, as Parikshit says later. So let me be bitten by the snake bird or whatever wonderful manifestation it is, you know. So, you know, Parikshit doesn't say, wait. It's a mistake. Do over, you know. No. Oh, and he doesn't play the king card. I'm the emperor of the world. Oh, and I'm Arjuna's grandson, Abhimanyu's, the great hero's son of Uttara. And Krishna is like my family member. He personally protected me even when I was in the womb. I'm pretty special. He didn't do any of that. He just said, oh, okay, that's it. My life's done in 7 days. Now what? And he gave everything up. Gave up all his responsibility, all his wealth, all his nice clothes and everything. And he sat down in a kopan on the bank of the Ganga. And he asked the sages, what do I do now? And they all had these opinions. Everybody had different opinions until Shukadeva Goswami came along. And he asked Shukadeva Goswami, what is the duty of one who's about to die? In other words, what's the most pressing business of human life? And Shukadeva was able to tell him because he was submissive. He was Arjuna's desperate, right? And Parikshit was desperate. Who else?
Maitreya?
Well, Maitreya, but I wasn't prepared. I was thinking of Maitreya, but I just didn't get that I didn't get that. I hadn't located that. Maitreya approached Vidura. And I just didn't get that one ready. But there is
That
Vyasadeva, right?
I thought that was just Narada telling him off.
No, Vyasadeva is desperate. He's unhappy. He's compiled all these scriptures, edited and compiled all these scriptures, and he's not feeling satisfied. So, where'd it go? I wish you could bookmark this kind of thing. So, Vyasadeva said, Narada Muni says, so you've fully delineated the subject of impersonal Brahman as well as knowledge derived therefrom. Why should you be despondent in spite of all this, thinking that you're undone, my dear Prabhu? And Vyasadeva said, you're right. But despite all this, I'm not satisfied. Therefore, I'm asking you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction. For you are a man of unlimited knowledge, due to your being the offspring of one who is self-born. My Lord, everything that is mysterious is known to you. Because you worship the creator and destroyer of the material world and the maintainer of the spiritual world, the original personality of Godhead, who's transcendental to the three modes of material nature. Like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere. And like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. You see everyone's heart. Just like one of my stories, one of my few direct, personal, close encounters with Srila Prabhupada, when Govinda Dasi dragged me down to the car because I was saying, some of these stories Prabhupada said about Tulsi Devi, some of these things that Prabhupada said, I wouldn't mind hearing some of them myself directly. So she pulled me down to the car, pushed me into the back seat, and she said, Prabhupada, this is Babaru. She's from Texas, so she said it in three syllables. And he's done all the work with Tulsi from the very beginning. And Prabhupada turned around, big smile, looked me in the eyes, and he said, Babaru, that is very nice. He says, but we should always engage our body and our mind in Krishna's service. And I thought, he sees into my heart. He knows what's going on. I'm out there taking care of Tulsi Devi hours every day, wondering, I'm going to be 25 soon. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? Going to take care of Tulsi for the rest of my life? Really? Go out on the streets and take care of Tulsi Devi? Or I'd be thinking, I wonder what the ways are like today. It was just like, we should always engage our body and our mind in Krishna's service. So he's glorifying him. He's acknowledging his teacher's wonderful qualities. And then he's submitting himself humbly. Vyasadeva, everybody's guru, right? Who else?
Devahuti?
Devahuti, but we can move on because we only have so much time. Whole Bhagavatam's nothing but questions and answers, right? That's what it's all about. What kind of questions do you ask when you want to know what human life is really about? And what kind of attitude do you bring to those questions? So it's the submission, questions that are relevant, submissive, and presented with a service attitude. But we see Sanatana Goswami as well, right? In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sanatana Goswami is a great inquiry. He gives us this wonderful example of how to submit spiritual inquiry. So, we know the story. He escapes from prison with the boatload of money, left by Rupa Goswami, for just that purpose. We know how Rupa Goswami divided his wealth up. He took a month or 6 months. It was, when it was time for him to leave home, he took some time to get his affairs in order. Unlike Raghunath Das Goswami, he didn't just in the middle of the night sneak away. But he took some time to take care, to arrange all his affairs for his family. Sanatan was in prison, so he took half his money and used it for the service of the Lord and the Vaishnavas, and 25% for his family, for their security, for their needs, and then 25% for an emergency. And he had an emergency in mind because Sanatan Goswami was in prison. So okay, here we take this boatload of gold coins and make it available to Sanatan so that he could. So Sanatan was able to bribe his way out of prison, and then because of Ishan's duplicity, the servant's duplicity, he ended up giving everything away and sending Ishan on his way with that last gold coin, and then he got to Varanasi, to Chandrasekhar Acharya's house, and he sat down outside the door. And he had to, he couldn't look like Sanatan Goswami. He couldn't look like, the prime minister to Nawab Hussain Shah. So he looked like a Dorvesha. That's the Bengali word that's used. Like a dervish. But not the dervishes with the cool costume and the big old hat. Dervish is like a Muslim mendicant, Babaji, Muslim Babaji. So he had this, except for the snazzy blanket that was his cousin or brother-in-law or somebody gave him. And so he's sitting down outside Chandrasekhar Acharya's house, and Lord Chaitanya says to Chandrasekhar, "There's a Vaishnava outside." And he goes out and he looks out and sees that just a hippie. No, Vaishnava, just a hippie. No, bring him in. And immediately embraced him. And so he had Sanatan go make himself gentle, dressed like a Vaishnava. No Krishna West stuff for him. And so then he came back, and then he asked, where'd it go? I had it here. Well, he submitted himself. He says, "My Lord, who am I? Why do I suffer these threefold miseries?" So he went right to the root of the problem, right? This is called radical interrogation, asking about going right to the root of the problem. And that gave Lord Chaitanya the opportunity to explain, well, we've got several chapters of Sanatana Shiksha, chapter 20, 21, 22, maybe 23, I can't remember. And before that, we have Rupa Shiksha. Chapter 19, we have Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Rupa Goswami. And we have several chapters of Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami, including the 64 Angas of Bhakti. I mean, it's just kind of explained Bhakti Yoga from A to Z to Sanatana Goswami because he made him the teacher. One more example of submissive inquiry.
Uddhava.
Oh, two more examples. We'll get to Uddhava. Still in Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Oh.
Lord Chaitanya.
Lord Chaitanya.
Ramananda Sambhad.
Yeah, Ramananda Sambhad. Lord Chaitanya, he found, because Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had told him, well, you should, once he understood where Lord Chaitanya was at, once Lord Chaitanya gave him the business, right? Gave him, explained the Atmarama verse in so many ways, and he realized, oh boy. So then he said, well, there's this really cool devotee. I was never able to figure this guy out. I could never understand him. Couldn't make heads or tails of him until I heard from you. You would love this guy, Ramananda Roy. So if you're going to go to South India, you should make sure you stop and visit Ramananda Roy, because you'd get a big kick out of this devotee. And so what did he do when he saw Ramananda Roy? He said, please tell me what the highest goal of life is and support your assertion with some verses from the scripture. And there's this whole long conversation. So Lord Chaitanya is also an exemplary inquirer. And then, who said it? Balaka? Is that you?
Yeah.
So we can take a quick look at how Uddhava inquired from the Lord. Because Uddhava, being a very clever person, a very wise person, he was able to discern from the signs, expert semiotician, able to discern from the signs that Krishna's pastimes were about to wind up. And he says, please take me with you. But Krishna had another idea for Uddhava. So here's how Uddhava My dear Lord, you alone award the results of yoga practice, and you're so kind that by your own influence you distribute the perfection of yoga to your devotee. Thus, you are the supreme soul who's realized through yoga, and it is you who are the origin of all mystic power. For my supreme benefit, you've explained the procedure for giving up the material world with the process of sannyas, or renunciation. No, that's not one. It's the wrong chapter. No, that's the right chapter. Oh, my Lord, I myself am most foolish, because my consciousness is merged in the material body and bodily relations, which are all manufactured by your illusory energy. Thus I'm thinking, I'm this body, and all these relatives are mine. Ahanta and mamata. That's our problem, right? That's the problem we see in the first verse of Bhagavad Gita. Ahanta and mamata. Mamakapandavascha, us and them. And what's the solution? We see the solution in the last word of the first verse. Sanjaya represents the guru. By submission to the guru, then that toxic ahanta and mamata become replaced by genuine ahanta and mamata, by spiritual ahanta, spiritual identity and spiritual relations, spiritual possessiveness. I am Krishna's. He is mine. That's Krishna consciousness. I'm thinking, I'm this body and all these relatives are mine. Therefore, my Lord, please instruct your poor servant. Please tell me how I can very easily carry out your instructions. My dear Lord, you are the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you reveal yourself to your devotees. Besides your Lordship, I do not see anyone who can actually explain perfect knowledge to me. Such a perfect teacher is not to be found even among the demigods in heaven. Indeed, all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma are bewildered by your illusory potency. They're conditioned souls who accept their own material bodies and bodily expansions to be the highest truth. Therefore, O Lord, feeling weary of material life and tormented by its distresses, I now surrender to you, because you are the perfect master. You are the unlimited, all-knowing personality of Godhead, whose spiritual abode in Vaikunta is free from all disturbances. In fact, you are known as Narayana, the true friend of all living beings. And so he submits himself to Krishna like this. So when we approach the Guru, we should be desperate, just like we see explained by Havi or Kavi, or one of the 9 Yogendras, one of those 9 sages, sons of Rishabdev, to the king of Videha. Well, there we go. There is one more exemplar. Maharaj Nimi, king of Videha, when he encounters these 9 sages, he says, I think that you must be direct associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's famous as the enemy of the demon Madhu. Indeed, pure devotees of Lord Vishnu wander throughout the universe not for their personal selfish interest, but to purify all the conditioned souls. For the conditioned souls, the human body is most difficult to achieve, and it can be lost at any moment. But I think that even those who have achieved human life rarely gain the association of pure devotees, who are dear to the Lord of Vaikun. Therefore, O completely sinless ones, I ask you to kindly tell me what the supreme good is. After all, even half a moment's association with pure devotees in this world of birth and death is a priceless treasure for any man. Please speak about how one engages in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord, if you consider me capable of properly hearing these topics. So there's qualification for guru and for disciple. Not everybody can go to Harvard. There's some qualification. You got to have, well, the high grades and the whole resume thingy and all that, and connections. If you think me capable of properly hearing these topics, when a living entity offers loving service to the Supreme Lord, the Lord is immediately satisfied, and in return he will give even his own self to the surrendered soul. Someone even pretends to surrender. Who's our example of that? Bhutana. Lord Brahma says, he's thinking about how fortunate the residents of Braja are. The cowherd women, and then the cowherd men and cowherd boys. Thinking of Vatsalyarati and Sakyarati, and he says, but here's the thing, here's the catch. You've completely sold yourself to Putana, who disguised herself as a devotee, to Putana and all her demon family, all her demon brothers. So what's left for the residents of Vrindavan? What's left for you to give to the residents of Vrindavan who really have surrendered their own homes, families, their very lives? So this is how wonderful Krishna is. So here we see King Nimi submitting himself to the Navi-Yogendras, and one of them, after explaining the utter futility, as I pointed out many times, of all material endeavor, to King Nimi, he says, Tasmad Gurum prapadyeta. Tasmad, therefore, you have to take shelter of Guru. Tasmad Gurum prapadyeta. Jigyasu shayutam. Shabde pare janishnatam brahmani pashamasha. So the Guru has qualifications, and we see that the disciple also has qualifications. Please instruct me if you think I can hear it, if you think I'm ready. So, this is the process of inquiry. This is the attitude we should have behind, when we inquire from the Guru and from the Vaishnavas about devotional service. We should be submissive. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be groveling on the ground, but we have to have open hearts. We have to be open to hear. We actually have to be qualified to hear, which means we have to appreciate, as we've seen in all these exemplars, what they have to say, what the devotees have to say. And we have to be open to it. And that's all it takes. Have our hearts open. Because Bhakti Devi is very powerful. She, if we let her in, then, if we're honest and let her in, then she can take over our lives. And we also become independent and powerful. Devotees can do pretty amazing things. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, it wasn't the tradition of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas to live in the city. They'd live, maybe in Puri. Otherwise, they would live in, little enclaves, in Gauda Mandala, or in Brajaman, in Vrindavan area or the area of Navadvip and Mayapur as Babajis, or live in their family, in their home, with their Vaishnava families. But they weren't into city life. They liked life a little simple. Generally, there were exceptions like Pundarik Vidyanidhi. But but Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he went, even his own guru asked him, why do you want to go to Kali's city? Kolkata, right? Why do you want to go there? He said, well, there's conditioned souls suffering. They need to hear Lord Chaitanya's message. And then he sent his disciples across the ocean. Sannyasis don't go across the ocean conventionally. He sent his disciples across the ocean. A few years and a bunch of money invested in their project, and not much came of it. They brought back a couple of European disciples, made some contacts with some hoity-toity folks in London and Berlin and stuff, but no real strong impression. And they came back. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Thakur, where he was addressing his disciples in one meeting, and he said, we made an attempt, and the success was almost modest. He says, but I'll make this prediction, because he's saying this was my mother's deathbed instruction. Because she knew my spiritual master, my father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, wanted this. So on her deathbed, my mother said, you must satisfy this desire of your father and spread the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to the whole world. They have to get outside the borders of India. So Bengali mother, Bengali mothers and sons. So then he said, but I have a prediction. The next one of my disciples who crosses the ocean will bring the whole world back with him. And guess what? That happened. And when he said that, this incident was recounted by Prabhupada's godbrother, Nayanananda Das Babaji. He was sitting kind of right behind Srila Prabhupada in this meeting, and he said, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was looking in his direction, and then he realized, he was looking at Abhay Baba, sitting right in front of him. He was like he had locked eyes with Abhay Charanaravinda. He says, my prediction is that the next one of my disciples who crosses the ocean will bring the whole world back with him. So the devotees can do amazing things. So it's not just that we're just going to spend the rest of our lives carrying wood and buckets of water, unless that's what needs to be done. But we may have to go out, conquer the world in one fashion or another. Srila Prabhupada was amazed. He was amazed that he was on that boat. He said, oh, my spiritual masters asked me to do this crazy thing, my dear friend Krishna, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't have any qualification to do this now. Oh, but guess what? You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You can make it happen. Let's make a deal. So, you address Krishna twice in these poems that he wrote on the boat. Humbly making a deal. Okay, it's very late. Anybody have anything more? Or questions? Or problems? Okay, thanks again for your patience.
Thanks for coming back.
Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gauta Bhakta ki jai.
Thanks for coming back to the world travels.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, how's it going?
Great.
What?
Well, I had my book on top of my phone the whole time.